Small. Wow, tiny.
You are currently listening to Tiny Table,
where we explore TTRPGs you might not have heard of.
Whether big or small, we hope to cover them all.
Because we know that great things can come in tiny packages.
MÖRK BORG has died. Grab your rustiest scalpels, your nastiest leather wraps, and a shot of rubbing alcohol, because it's the only thing to drink around here as we get ready to dissect in this post-mortem. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Hope you all enjoyed the little foray into MÖRK BORG.
I know I certainly did.
Wunderbar.
I also had a good time.
Yeah.
Let's dive right into it then. I want to hear a little bit from everybody of what we really loved.
So something I really like about MÖRK BORG, and apologies if I call it MÖRK BORG at all, I am Swedish, so I do get an exception.
You get the O pass.
You can't say anything to me.
This is the race cared.
I thought the death mechanics were cool as someone that died a lot. I liked it. So often there is the threat of death that is never actualized. And I think MÖRK BORG does a great job of, ooh, you did it. Also, I need everyone to know I am resisting every urge to eat Funyuns right now.
Yeah, you're so brave for that. No, to piggyback off that a little bit, yeah, just the general danger level felt very refreshing, I would say. The fact that death seemed like an actual threat, which I feel in sometimes in other TTRPGs. And, you know, we can just be honest, like, the main one that I've played is Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes that threat doesn't loom quite as heavy. And I do think that, you know, the mechanics for that, I agree, pretty sweet.
Yeah, this is definitely like the Goblin Grinder. This is a meat grinder. Like, MÖRK BORG is a character grinder. Your characters will die. You will die. It's a dangerous world out there. And for unlucky rollers, such as myself, this game was very challenging. Even with a generic DC of 12, as most stats are so low, it's hardly an offset. You fuck up once and your character is dead.
Yeah.
100%. You might fuck up 0 times and your character is dead.
Yeah.
You want yourself a backup and a backup for your backup, honestly.
Which can lead to hilarity and catastrophic failure.
Yeah, and I think a big part of why death feels so nice in this game is that the act of rolling a character is maybe my favorite part of it. The myriad of tables you're allowed to roll on as you get your character together. We played in this game with the optional classes, with the idea of class being an optional mechanic alone is very compelling. The idea that your core defining features will be the things you hold in your hands, as opposed to just like, oh, at level 3 I get my action surge. That's wrong. That's not when action surge happens. Whatever.
Fake
Fake D&D fan.
Fake fan.
But like. I encourage all of you as players to completely randomize your characters first and then find aesthetics afterwards. And I think that's a big part of the reason we found such compelling aesthetics to explore.
Yeah.
Is that you get to find just marvelous things in this just completely grimdark world.
Yeah, to kind of go off of that, I was a little intimidated at first when you said, hey, full random. We're gonna roll for literally everything: stats, equipment, item, everything. As someone who's a bit of a power gamer, I like to get the little advantages wherever I can. The thought of everything being random was terrifying. But by the time we had come through the entire process, it was so again, the word I like to use is refreshing. Like, it just felt so new. It felt so unique. And suddenly I went from being like, oh no, I'm like a bunch of randomly generated things, to, oh, I have a really solid character idea. I don't know if it's the same for you, Holly or Neo, but...
It definitely was the same for me, and it was also really quick. I think I was literally running to go somewhere, and Julian was on her break, and we called in that short amount of time, made the entire character, and was like, oh, okay, I gotta go back to work. I'm like, okay, yeah, I gotta catch subway. All right, bye. So it was really quick, and it was really fun. It it can lead to some...
It can create some tonal dissonance.
Yeah.
Which is, and that's up to us as players and you as players for whoever might play MÖRK BORG to sort of work out together, if you even want to do it randomly at all. But what's great is that most of the book descriptions are vague and sort of vibe-based, which leaves room for very simple to very lore-rich characters. And it would be basically up to you to make them mesh well, just because of how much vagary exists in the book, which is, I think, both a pro and a con. I like pro in that, like, the vague descriptions of things is really cool and creates a lot of, aesthetic inspirations, especially the physical book itself, which we'll loop back around to talking about because it deserves its own segment. But because some descriptions are so vague, even in the rules of the mechanical settings of certain interactions, the vagary causes, I would say, some issues. What do you think, Julian?
To speak on that a little, Neo, I think it's worth noting that MÖRK BORG very much lives within the traditions of the OSR, which, for those who are unfamiliar, that OSR stands for Old School Renaissance. This is it's a branch of gaming that has evolved out of kind of the post-3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons scene. It's aiming to reclaim what old D&D felt like, in the sense that things are a little less rules delineated, there's a little less specificity in a lot of ways, there's a little more specificity in areas you might not feel need that specificity. If you go back and you read actual, like, old D&D at this point, the real, like, the OG books from 1974, you're spending a lot of time reading, Gary Gygax's didactic breakdowns of, the difference between a guisarme and a halberd, and then you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm 2 paragraphs deep, Gary. At what point is this going to be relevant to my gameplay experience? And the answer is, if you're a really fun flavor of nerd, it's critical to your experience. But for a lot of folks, it's going to feel a little alienating. So OSR has done a lot of sanding down of what we remember of old Dungeons and Dragons. The OSR overall, I feel, lives in a lot of spaces of slightly more open-ended vagary, like you've mentioned, Neo, because what it's aiming to do there is it's aiming to get back to the point where the difference between the Dungeon Master's oversight and overview of things and the player's engagement with the world felt more asymmetrical. 3rd edition is really the kind of culprit of the idea that, like, you open up a monster stat block and you can point and say, like, the monster has these feats and they're from the same list of feats that players can get, and it's all very noodly, it's very, you get +2 to things in this situation kind of stuff.
The type of math that for me specifically makes my brain go
Yeah.
that I love, but for your average person is probably daunting and kind of a turnoff. But
exactly. So we'll get deeper into some of the frictions we felt with it a little later, and we'll dive on it. But since we're on the topic now, an area that I felt friction with is the idea that there isn't a lot of the idea of what I'll call a social mechanic in this game. This game contains about as much in terms of social mechanisms as any OSR game has. There's one stat, presence, which dictates your engagement with anything social. It's charming people, it's intimidating people, it's scaring them away, it's making them like you, it's making them, not want to deal with you. All of that falls under presence. You roll a DR check, you see if you pass or fail, same as anything else. There's a single reaction roll you can make when you run into randos. Do they like you? Do they not like you? And then there's a morale system where when you beat people up, maybe they run away, like people do. And we felt a little bit of friction with this because the first bit of the podcast was very socially focused. It was a lot of folks talking to each other and the like. And I think we all felt some mutual discomfort at the idea that there wasn't a lot of mechanical mediation of the scenes we were exploring. But I think that, in part, that is a friction we would feel with almost any game in the OSR canon, and would need to maybe even adjust our own expectations a little to see how we enter into that space.
Yeah, like just to be self-conscious of us as a group, we fucking love to role play. We love to like get into character and like say like, you know, different lines or like get into our stories, even as minor as they may or may not be. I think for our group specifically, we highly value mechanics that support fluent role play that not all groups are going to value the same amount. So I feel like you can take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, though I will say there is something to, you know, like D&D's credit that you have your big old charisma stat for interacting with the world, but then also have that broken down into specific skills like, you know, intimidation, deception, persuasion, whereas this, it kind of just is presence and that's it. I think there are like certain things like, you know, I have friction with the fact that maybe there could be a small expansion where it's like, oh, I have presence and I'm scary versus I have presence and I talk all nice, you know? Neil.
Yeah, the game of Mork is best when swinging swords and setting ooze aflame, but the book provides very little mechanical structure for the social encounters. That is really up to the prowess of the DM and how much characters want to engage in social interaction. Especially for the adventure that we ran, the Goblin Grinder, that one had a sort of a social start with a shopkeeper character and sort of townsfolk to interact with, which kind of created this sort of friction we felt. Because
let's not forget the monkeys.
And let's not forget the monkeys. But if we started, say, in a dungeon, just you wake up in the dungeon, we might not have felt this friction.
I will, yeah, literally jumping off that exactly. We played MÖRK BORG, I think, 2 years ago at this point.
Something like that.
And we started in the dungeon, and I don't think any of us felt that friction. And I guess maybe in my opinion, I think maybe I would have to play more to see that. I think it does do best in a dungeon where everything feels like limited, resources feel limited, the world feels small and dire and deadly. It does really well in that dungeon for people that want that grim dark. And yeah, I think it was in a way refreshing to like kind of on the opposite side to feel so open-ended with the role play that I felt like we could just kind of go with it and kind of just be in there and be having fun improving. But I think that also comes from the fact that we all like doing that with each other.
I actually want to say, Holly, I think you are hitting on what the more harmonious version of this does look like. Because even, as you said, Skylar, how, you know, in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, for example, your persuasion stat versus your intimidation stat, those are different rolls, different numbers. Mechanics will always mediate how you engage with the role-playing space. And I think we very often like to say the words, we like to role-play. What we really mean by that is we are happy to engage in longer, just real-time, in-character conversations with very little mechanical mediation.
Yeah.
We'll have a scene where I'm an NPC, you're a PC, you're a different PC, we're all talking, and maybe 20 minutes go by before I even ask anybody, hey, make me a roll for XYZ. And I think that similarly here in MÖRK BORG, what you're hearkening on, Holly, is you're noting the fact that without the idea that there's a persuasion roll versus an intimidation roll versus a deception roll, you're not contorting your understanding of the scene around those expectations. You're not saying words with the brain thinking, okay, if I say the right words, the DM will let me make a persuasion roll, not an intimidation roll, because I have proficiency in persuasion, but I don't have it in intimidation. It's like, you know, that's a way where mechanical mediation can introduce friction, but less mechanical mediation can actually make it more open. So I think it's a style of game that we haven't engaged with a ton, and I'd be interested to play in that space more and learn a little more about what that level of mechanical mediation feels like.
Do we want to actually, now that we're sort of talking about what we like about it, let's talk a little bit more about what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say, I didn't want to derail us too much and pull away from mechanics, because I could talk about mechanics all day, baby. Like, I love crunching numbers, I love reading little abilities, I love finding synergies, but the thing that I think for all of us stands out head and fucking shoulders above so many other TTRPGs is just the pure fucking aesthetics. This book is gorgeous. The art is insane. The way that everything is described, I feel, is so immersive. I felt pulled into the world of MÖRK BORG through its, narrative descriptions. And honestly, that's a big part on you, Julian, as the DM as well. And you're just pure talent as a game master for these sorts of things. But even just going through and like hearing about like, how run down everything is, what my abilities are, and how all of them are kind of like twisted versions. We use that class system, and everything's like a little off. Everything's a little odd. It's like if D&D met a nuclear apocalypse and then things got even worse from there somehow. And I find that the art and the aesthetics and everything is just really, really engaging. And I believe anyone can find a lot of validity in wanting to play MÖRK BORG for the aesthetics alone, to be honest.
Which makes it an excellent one-shot or two-shot adventure because its world is so vast, vague, and compelling all at the same time. You can really have a lot of fun in its grimdark and grungy aesthetics without having to fully commit to a larger, more complicated, greater narrative. This is really a meat grinder in all senses of the word, and just looking at the book is truly what makes you feel like part of this world. The colors, the graphic design, the way that the tables are organized. There's a great page on the printing version of page 21 where it is a weapons list. But instead of just listing out the weapons on a table, there is a picture of a bloody and wounded man stabbed with a variety of weapons, with each weapon having its description and D4, D6 printed next to it. It's so metal. This book is so cool.
And it's immediately next to a whole page splash for solely the first entry on this D10 list, and it's the number 1, the word femur, and the words D4 and the letters D and the number 4 in parentheses, and just a picture of a bone. Like, roll that D10, buddy. Turn the page. Oh, you rolled a 1. You get a splash page-sized joke at your expense. It's so good.
Yeah, I think my favorite art and page. It's hard to talk about this game without talking about just how cool the rules book is. So I think my favorite is actually the page, funnily enough, the page right after that is just 3 other weapons, just huge, showing the art of them and what they look like, because, unless you are like me and you love the weapons exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, maybe you don't know what a flail looks like. And so it's cool to show that. And it's like, flail, D8. And like, it's just a really cool way to show things and make you interested in the world. And
to really highlight here, like Aaron Voigt makes this point very excellently in his YouTube video about the layout of this book. Highly recommend looking into Aaron Voigt's RPG work. By the way, he publishes his own RPGs. But like we just talked about, each of us individually as a page is our favorite. My favorite page is the femur page. Neo's favorite is the weapons man page, and Holly's favorite is the 2-page splash. Those are 4 pages dedicated to one D10 table. That's the level of commitment this book has to its aesthetics and its like vibe values over the idea that this is just the job of the text is to tell you the rules and then get out of the way. The job of MÖRK BORG is to make you excited to play MÖRK BORG. And I love that for the layout, so I'd love to hear yours, Skylar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I have one that stands out as my top favorite page, but there are a couple that I want to give shout outs to. My number 1 favorite page, I have the PDF version pulled up, and it's on page 13. It is a yellow background with white silhouettes indicating windows in the background, and there is this black and white sort of like regally, like wholly dressed woman, like looks like maybe like a priest or maybe even like a queen, in an entirely black and white, shadows for her eyes, little crown, long braided hair, and in front of her is a man kneeling with his hands in a prayer position, some sort of vague armor and a cloak adorning his body, and in the palm of her hand that she has outstretched, she is caressing his decapitated head, I guess you would like veins still connected to where his head was clearly severed and blood splurting in the background. And there's something about the specific aesthetics of this, especially the religious connotations that make me think of one of my favorite games, Blasphemous, that also has a very, very strong, hardcore, metal, grungy, grim, dark aesthetic, specifically tied around like religion and like kind of old fantasy that I just really, really connected with. But in addition to those, I had to give a little shout out to page 28 where it says hit points, and it's just, I think, a real picture of a heart. It's just straight up like a photograph of a heart. It is not a drawing at all.
Yep, a human heart, anatomical.
It's just an anatomical human heart.
To kind of also just lend to the art of this book, 2 years ago when Julian first pitched us doing a one-shot of this when Skylar was in town, I was really new to TTRPGs, and I'm not a person that likes to try new things. I like the things that I like. And so Julian showing me this art book was really the like, okay, cool, like we'll try this. Yeah, like we'll try this system. So it lets you know what it's about out the gate.
I love that you called it an art book, because it is.
Yeah.
Like, not only is it a rules book, but it truly is an art book. MÖRK BORG is 100% worthwhile owning in physical print. Even though the book does tell you to burn it when you are finished. Do not, because it is just so damn beautiful.
It's too pretty. You couldn't get rid of it.
Pretty.
Another little thing I like, getting back to the mechanical side of things, but also rounding out the favorite pages of the book, because I'm greedy and I want more than the femur page. I'll say one more. The page for arcane catastrophes that you can roll on for when something goes wrong magically. This thing is mind-blowing. The entire page is this disgustingly bright yellow. The title is in hot pink. The entries for the page look at first glance as though they're aligned in one of the more traditional 2-column print styles, but each one is individually stamped on. All 20 entries for this D20 list are stamped individually on, and they start to crumble and fall out of order and fall out of assortment the more you look at the page. Some of the entries are partially in pink. There's a wrapping bit of text that wraps around the margins of the page and then run down the side of the page on a 90-degree angle offset turn. It's so ugly, and of course it's ugly because it's the page you have to look at when you are like rolling on the "you fucked up a spell" table. So your punishment is you have to look at this horrifically ugly table, and also every result on it is perfect. It's like one of my top 5 tables in any book I've ever seen.
It's like the page embodies the actual insanity that your character is going through in that moment.
Yep. It says in this like dark scrawled text that partially covers the title of the page, "You read it wrong, you illiterate fool!"
I guess to maybe bring up some frictions and things that we maybe struggled with playing as a group, or struggled with enjoying to the fullest as a group. At least for me, was combat. As someone that likes to really mix up what I'm doing, and maybe it's all my years of playing Fire Emblem. I kind of like a nitty-gritty combat, and I think I think Julian, you called it swingy, and I thought that was a good way of describing it. That when you're doing good in combat, you're doing really good, and when you're doing bad in combat, you're doing really bad.
It's the League of Legends effect.
Yeah, and I like that the fights are fast. I like that the fights are snappy. And I feel like the system in its open-endedness, it rewards you for creativity, but it is definitely putting a bit of a burden on the DM to create environments where creativity is easy to embody. Because this is not a game where white room fights are at all compelling. It's very much just like I swing, you swing, whoever hits first and harder is gonna win. I think the adventure we played also is kind of built around it being a pretty procedural, do these relatively balanced fights at a time thing, which I think hews a little away from the OSR's desire for like, the world is, and I think that the book's vibes embody this, right? The world is cruel. You're gonna die. You're gonna get your shit pushed in. You're gonna have a horrible, horrible time. But then we played an adventure where like every individual fight, pretty even balance, definitely doable by 3 PCs.
Like, if we didn't roll as good, the fight could have been boring instead of engaging.
Yeah, I
think
agree.
we even did have some stretches where we just couldn't hit anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, to that point, you're talking about, this feeling like maybe it wasn't as unfair as the book portrays. A little, behind the scenes. First off, we did use the optional class mechanics, which I think are going to make stronger characters than if not.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you also gave us a free get better, essentially the equivalent of a level up. We had some improved stats, some improved equipment, I think, for some of us. Like, we started off on a higher foot because for recording for a podcast, we were like, well, it could be fun if we all just died, but not if it's in episode 1. So
I don't know. I feel like someone here died more than once.
Yes, some would say nominally twice. I was gonna say, like, Skylar, what the fuck are you talking about? I didn't think it was not fair enough. I thought, like, god damn, it was hard to win some of the times. That was not my thought of, oh, it was too easy. Some of us had a character sheet that at the end was quads. Like,
that to me just sounds like a skill issue. So
I'm sorry, I killed the most. I died the most, I killed the most. I live at extremes, baby.
High peaks, high valleys, low valleys.
And I think the thing that's also hard is not only did you roll to hit, you have to roll to not get hit. And I'm not gonna say names, but some of us roll better than others.
We'll let that pattern play out in recorded form, and we're gonna have an excellent, studyable track record of how true this idea is. This superstition is in our group.
If anyone knows the name of the witch who cursed me with bad dice luck, please contact me and let me know.
Send a letter to our P.O. box.
Please DM us.
Please DM us.
Our email is listed prominently in our Twitter bio.
It's actually shitter now with an X.
Is that how you pronounce the X?
Yeah, like in Chinese.
Oh,
That's clever.
So funny.
Oh man, I probably sound like an incredibly boring 30-year-old liberal right now, but I've never heard that joke, and that made me laugh.
No, that's
It was a good one.
That's good.
That was good. Anything else that anyone felt? I was gonna say I liked how the plot unfolded. I enjoyed that.
Once the action was rolling, I liked the adventure we were running. You might have noticed Neo dropped the name a few times. We hewed away from using the term goblin during the adventure itself because I think we're all aware of kind of some of the weird anti-Semitic stuff tied up with goblin depictions in fantasy media. We're wary about that, so we hewed away and we used the Swedish word set, which is provided in the book as well. But for those who want to look up the adventure, the name of it is The Goblin Grinder. It is on the MÖRK BORG website. It's one of their free adventures they have published.
Yeah, I just kept calling it that because I love alliteration. Goblin Grinder. It just sounds good.
Exactly.
You could just
set
instead
slammer.
I was gonna say the set shredder.
Oh, the set shredder. Now
I really should have thought of that before I ran the game. But I think last bit of what I want to reference here that I just love, and I think this is kind of getting into beyond what we love of what we want to steal section.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I adore this game's approach to magic as handled by the player characters. And I think this is honestly, for a lot of OSR games, the real nitty-gritty of what's happening in a fight is usually pretty similar for a lot of them. But magic is very often the great delineator. Like if you've read Old School Essentials, their magic system is crazy. A bunch of different games all have novel approaches in wanting to get away from the idea that everything is just kind of like, all right, everything has a level and you upcast with different levels and here are your spell slots, and maybe we use the old style Vancian magic where you memorize and forget. Maybe we don't. But I'm personally most motivated by OSR games when they get into the idea that they can just do whatever they want with their magic system. I like that it comes from physical objects in the world in this game. It feels like it harkens back to the idea that you are what you carry more than you are what's like, oh, I have X number of abilities on my character sheet. It's more like, well, I own a hook. We can use a hook for something.
Yeah, I think, in terms of that one, like you said, it just fits the aesthetics of the game that you aren't really, we use the optional feature, but in most cases, you aren't really like a fighter or an adventurer. You are someone who is just struggling to survive as much as the next person. You're just a guy. and having an item be the conduit through which your magic manifests, I think is very interesting. And to that point, to the magic system, you pointed out that your favorite page is the arcane failures. I really enjoy that because it's almost as if every single person using magic is a wild magic sorcerer with the option for things to go terribly, terribly wrong at any given moment. And that, I think, is just a lot of fun.
The thing I'm definitely going to steal to round out that point is you look at the names of the spells, and we run a game of 5th edition together outside of this podcast, and in that game you cast spells like Fireball and Invisibility. The spells in this game are called things like Palms Open the Southern Gate and Lucy Fires Levitation and Grace for a Sinner. You can't beat that shit, dog. Getting to have such evocative names, it makes you want to engage with the magic even though you run such a high risk of rolling on that iconically bad Arcane Catastrophes table.
Damn. Melf's Minute Meteors ain't doing it for you.
Nah, I'm not a Melf lover.
Melf's, wow.
Not a Melf lover.
They truly, to get into the metal theme, they all sound like songs in like a metal album. Like every single spell, you're just like, oh sweet, like this. Oh, is Black Sabbath? Oh, it's MÖRK BORG. Okay, I understand.
And Neo, I think you had something you wanted to talk about the omens mechanic.
Yes, the Omen system is extremely cool, and even though we only played in a 3-shot, not giving us enough time to reset the omens, it still was almost a necessary bastion of hope in a hopeless world, because the omens allowed you to do a variety of things, actually. They allow you to deal maximum damage, re-roll a dice roll, yours or others, lower damage, and in such a brutal type of playscape, having omens at all was absolutely necessary for us to even complete our adventure even a little bit.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, one, this is easily the mechanic I would steal without a doubt. I thought the omen system was really cool, and it kind of, again, adds to both sides of that difficulty argument from earlier. On the one side, we had that to our benefit, which helped us in, a lot of our fights. And without that, this could be a lot harder, meaning that with all the benefits, we still had a double character death. This game is brutal. It's fantastic and it's brutal, but my character got, I think, the ability to engage with it the most. I actually had a feature that allowed me to just get them back half the time on a die roll, like odds or evens essentially. And so I really got to, mess around with this mechanic. But even with me having extra, of these omens to use, they were so necessary and also just so fun that we used them all in the first episode. In the first recording, going back and having edited it a bit, we used all of Neo's 2, all of Holly's 2, all of my, I think I had 4 or maybe 5 total in episode 1, with maybe only 1 saved for episode 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, maybe we should have
saved some for a certain character death.
Who's to say?
Which, could maybe be a testament to our lack of preparation, but I think, I'm just gonna say it, omens are just better inspiration from Dungeons and Dragons. It's
100%.
just cooler. You can apply it to more things. I think the things that they apply to are more mechanically interesting. Just being able to spend a resource for maximum damage is super, super cool. It's not quite just auto critting, but it also it's somewhere in between. It feels fair, it feels balanced. Again, it's that little bit of hope that you need. And I think if inspiration in Dungeons and Dragons just did a few more things, it would feel more rewarding, like how I feel omens do.
Mm-hmm.
It's also something to be said about, did we use up all of our omens in the first episode? Yes. Would we have made it to the second episode without them? Who can say?
Who's to say?
Who is to say?
The set scruncher is a dastardly thing, and it's so far away, y'all.
Let's just keep workshopping that. The set scruncher, yeah, love it.
Holly, anything you would steal from this game?
Call me lame, call me a purist. I think MÖRK BORG works because it's so its own.
Yeah.
I've never really played anything like this. I guess if I would have to steal anything, especially for how especially for like a short campaign or one shot, is the randomized character maker. I find so often in one shots, you have to put so much thought into making the character, and then none of it is hit on. So either you have a really fully baked character that nothing is resolved, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm so glad I spent like 2 days of my life making this, or you create something so bland that you're like, I don't really care. But when I made Kill Knock, I was given like you have 3 monkeys and you laugh when you're uncomfortable, and that my kingdom sunk into the sea. And those are great. I would have never come up with those on my own, and it made for a compelling character that I also like felt like I got what I needed from in 3 episodes.
And to the credit of the randomness table, I feel like if you approach most dungeon masters and you're like, hey DM, could I have 3 monkeys? You're gonna be hit with a hard no.
And I was given those beautiful babies on a silver platter. I think when I rolled that, I said, oh yes. And they are in a wagon.
So Holly's stealing exactly 3 monkeys.
Yeah, yo, D&D, add more Wizards of the Coast, more monkeys, please.
More monkeys, please.
Monkeys now. Something I'd love to steal from this is the shield mechanic and how shields work in this game, because they are incredibly overpowered, which is great.
Some would say almost too helpful. Like, you kind of need one.
Yeah. You
Kind of
need-
like you should in combat. You should have a shield.
Yeah.
For real. One other thing I not only want to steal, but have already stolen for use in other games, and an element that never came up during our play, because we were playing a thing that took place in like a single day or 2 days or whatever. A thing that's usable for if you're playing MÖRK BORG in a longer setting is the Calendar of Necrobel, which is on its 16th page or spans its 16th and 17th pages. It's a series of psalms. You roll on a D66 table where you roll 2 D6s and take both numbers. And of all the everything on the page that I love all the incredibly dire psalms. I love the creepy embossed silver skull and snake art. The thing I love, it's like 1 inch in the margins at the very bottom, titled, When Will This Agony End? And you choose the duration of the campaign you want before the next apocalyptic event of Necrobel's calendar occurs, and you find that in the die it tells you to roll every sunset. Everywhere from you're living through the years of pain, every night roll a D100, on a 1 it's the apocalypse, all the way down to like, the end is nigh, every night flip a coin, and on tails it's the apocalypse. And you get 6 apocalypses, each one fundamentally changes the world in some way, but you live through it because this is a game about living through apocalypse after apocalypse after apocalypse. And I'm going to end our post-mortem here today with the reading of 7-7, which is what ends your campaign the 7th time you roll the apocalypse. The 7th misery will always be 7-7, and the world finally dies. The 7th seal is broken for the 7th and final time. The game and your lives end here. Burn the book.
All right, are we done?
I think we're done, y'all.
done?
Thank you all
Yeah,
for
I
joining
think
us
we're done.
for the post-mortem. And Holly,
Oh, and they're just opening. Oh, it's
enjoy
terrible.
your
Terrible mic quality.
Funyuns.
Oh my god, I'm so hungry. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Woo! That's a wrap, y'all.
necessity. So yes, give me the shield. Can I have that in our game, Julian?
Oh, damn, it's the on-mic request. I've already designed shields in Julian Edition. It's a different matter altogether.
No, but it is so lovely to have a shield. Something that keeps you just so safe and protected, especially against the many dangers. Just like how this sponsor, NordVPN, keeps you safe from all of them.
They don't
We
get it
can't
for free.
pre-game
They
sponsors.
don't get it for free.
We are launching this for our friends and buddies to listen to. NordVPN is busy filing lawsuits or something. I don't know.
NordVPN, if you're listening, we're willing.
If you're listening, would.
Would. Yo, you would.
This is one of those 4 Skylar jokes in the end credits, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, and thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then we'd really appreciate if you left us a review. If you really like what we do here and want to support us further, you can join us at patreon.com/tinytablepodcast. Our business email is also open for inquiries at tinytablebusiness@gmail.com, and all of our socials can be found in the episode description for any shenanigans you might want to follow. Till next time, see ya!